In today's video, we are covering more US taxpayer money for Israel and Ukraine. I am here to expose the truth. We are being lied to and basically robbed. So I created a poll which asked, should the United States of America send taxpayer money to help Israel's military? Within the first 11 hours, 36,000 people responded, which is a decent sample size. Most of the answers came from the US. 14% of Americans support more US taxpayer money for Israel's military. 86% of Americans say no. So please share this truth and reality on your social media. So I'll tell you this, the media is acting like the majority of Americans support giving more money for Israel's war machine. So that is not true. That is a false narrative and that is propaganda. The reason why the politicians and the media are pushing for more money to Israel, Ukraine, and all these other countries is because there is a lot of money involved. So there's a lot of money to siphon off and profit from in these backdoor deals. The more taxpayer money that gets sent overseas with minimal transparency is just an opportunity for the rich and powerful to gain more wealth and control. So it's a scam and US taxpayers are the victim. So if you don't believe me, I want to show you this video clip. This is from billionaire Bill Ackman cutting backdoor deals with Zelensky.
Okay. I do want to start, though, with news, but I think is news. A reported secret meeting that you had recently, you and a bunch of other people with Zelensky of Ukraine. Within the last few weeks, it was said to have happened. What happened in that room?
So I don't know that it was so secret, but basically I think Zelensky wanted to meet people from the business community, and there were about 10 of us there. It was organized by JP Morgan, and it was, this is a pretty important person. I think when we look back in time in our history, he's played a very important role in the last couple of years, and it was an opportunity to sort of meet him firsthand. And I think his goal here, I think, was to meet people who could be potential investors in the country, people who could bring business to the country, and I think what he really had to say was, don't wait till after the war. You can really help us by bringing business to our country now.
Also looking for people to help rebuild after the war.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm very bullish on Ukraine post-war.
Okay, so you saw it for yourself. Let me know what you think of that. When I see that, I think, wow, the rich and powerful, they're getting so bold where they're not even attempting to hide it anymore. I mean, they're saying this openly in public because they know that the peasant class will not revolt. So JP Morgan, of course JP Morgan is brokering this, and you have the ultra wealthy with their hedge funds and corporations trying to make some money. They're trying to profit off this. So you heard him yourself, investments start before the war ends. That means that rich people have most likely already invested money in Ukraine. So when there's blood in the streets, like literally, that's the best time to buy property. So we all know that Zelensky is cutting deals with private investors. So I want to explain this to you. I want to explain to you how this works. So the ultra wealthy invests in Ukraine. So whether it's infrastructure projects to financial services, etc. Rich people have a lot of money at risk in Ukraine. They cannot allow Putin to just come in and seize all of those investments. Otherwise, the rich people would lose money, and rich people hate losing money. Okay, so the ultra wealthy, they need to call in favors with their friends in DC, the politicians. It's like, hey, Mitch, I invested billions of dollars in Ukraine's infrastructure, and I kind of invested in your political fundraising too, so you better give Zelensky the $20 billion he needs for ammo. Otherwise, Putin is going to take all my money. Or this could be done through lobbyists. It's all the same thing. Not to mention that the politicians get kickbacks. They can't take the kickbacks and bribes directly in their own name, so they use family members and they use shell corporations, just textbook procedure, right? And then the politicians send billions of dollars of US taxpayer money to Ukraine for defense. Defense of the Ukrainian people and to protect the rich people's investments. So the politicians send billions of dollars for infrastructure in Ukraine. So think of these as grants to the rich investors. The Ukrainian government receives billions of dollars of US taxpayer money to oversee all of this. You can think of that as a project management fee. So look, all of this This whole thing, it's driven by profit motive. The politicians and ultra wealthy are doing backdoor deals all over the place. Billions of dollars, Ukraine, Israel, Central America, all over the world. And the US government is using taxpayer money, your money, my money, to protect the investments of the wealthy. So I want you to know how this works if you haven't figured it out by now. It's very straightforward. So let me ask you, who is in control? The whole system runs like this. There are three controlling parties. Rich corporations, they have the money. Central bankers, they create the money. And the politicians, they create the law. So I am not upset at these parties simply because they are rich. I am disgusted because they take taxpayer money to further their own interest. And they try to disguise it as something else. So they are essentially robbing the American people of a better society and a higher standard of living. Now, I want to explain this part to you. It is so important that you understand this, and you're not going to hear this anywhere else. These groups that are in control abuse their power and oppress everyday Americans up to a certain amount. There's a limit. Because if they overdo it and oppress too much, then the people will revolt. And the people will overthrow any of these institutions, whether it's a coup or a boycott or a new system. So it is in the best interest of these three institutions to oppress, but not overdo it to the breaking point. It's all about finding that sweet spot of oppression. So enough to make our blood boil, but not enough to rebel. So there's a science to this. And I want to clarify one more thing. So I see this in my comments all the time. People are saying, or they're asking, this doesn't make any sense. Why is it that US taxpayer money is not being spent at home to help Americans? Are Ukrainians more important than US citizens? Is this the best thing to do with our US taxpayer money? But this whole time, people are asking the wrong question. It's not about should US taxpayer dollars be spent on Americans or Ukrainians. That's not the question. The proper question is, who is more important? Everyday Americans or rich Americans? Taxpayer money is being spent to protect the interest of the ruling class. They have investments over there in Ukraine, which must be protected with taxpayer money. It's like a subsidy for them, and it's like a tax on us. So essentially, they are trying to take advantage of us right under our nose. And listen, it's like this. I'll talk about Palestine. So it's like this. I would say it's like, okay, there's Joseph, and he needs money to buy a weapon to go after Muhammad. Joseph and Muhammad, they've been fighting for ages. And me, I'm broke. I am broke as hell. I'm in debt. I'm like in $33 trillion worth of debt. Okay, a lot of debt. So do I really want to borrow money and go deeper into debt just so that I can take that money and give it to Joey to go after Muhammad? Is that a good idea? Especially when I have my own problems. When I look at my own family, my family members are homeless. Some of them are on drugs. People are entering my house illegally. My kids are stupid because of a bad education system. I have enough problems as is with my own family. I am not going to borrow money to give to Joey to go after Muhammad and do bad things. But then someone like Senator Chuck Schumer, he's the leader of the Senate, he comes along, or someone like Janet Yellen, who's the US Treasury Secretary, and they try to convince me. They say, Brian, yes, you are broke, and you are in credit card debt of $33 trillion, but you should borrow money, like $100 billion more, to help Joey in the name of freedom, to fight terrorism. And they tricked me into doing so because I'm gullible. And it turns out that in the end, Chuck Schumer and Janet Yellen were cousins of Joey, and they were also business partners. If you unpack what I just said, that is exactly what is going on. Or you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's no war profiteering involved. Maybe there's no corruption involved. Maybe there's no backdoor deals or secret meetings involved. Maybe the ultra wealthy and the corporations and the politicians do have our best interest at heart. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. Okay, so of course you know that I'm joking. This is all dirty and corrupt. Welcome to politics. So the best way to stop this robbery of our taxpayer money is to say no. Say no to the donation of our US taxpayer money to other countries. Don't believe the false narrative. Don't believe the propaganda. The majority of Americans support giving money to Israel. You mean 14% is the majority? So we're changing the definitions of what is a recession. Now we're changing what is the definition of majority. So let's face it, taxpayer money is being spent to enrich the wealthy. Listen, if you feel so strongly about giving money to Ukraine, that's great. That's what charities are for. If you're so passionate about giving money to Israel, send them money. It's a free country. But do not force me to take money out of my paycheck to feed this war machine so that the rich can get richer. I don't want to subsidize them. That's basically all I'm saying. Now, I have to tell you this. Ukraine has been in the spotlight. Ukraine has received more than $100 billion of US taxpayer money. And this whole Hamas and Israel situation has escalated. And then Zelensky started freaking out because the spotlight was no longer shining on him. And well, obviously that's a problem because that would jeopardize him getting more money for Ukraine. So Zelensky said that he's going to fly to Israel to show support. So he was trying to muscle his way back into the spotlight. But then Israel knew what Zelensky was trying to do. Israel was like, no, Zelensky, that US taxpayer money belongs to us. So Israel rejected Zelensky. They said, don't come. The time is not right. So I'm sure that Zelensky will get an invite after Israel gets their additional money from US taxpayers. So Zelensky tried to tag along with US Secretary of State Blinken, but Zelensky was not invited and he got left behind. So Zelensky is saying that he needs $750 billion more for Ukraine. So that is a lot of money, $750 billion. The United States government will collect about $4 trillion in tax revenue this year. $750 billion is about 19% of that. I understand that the $750 billion is spread out over multiple years, but still, you gotta be kidding me. Meanwhile, we have 40 million Americans on SNAP benefits, which is food stamps, 9 million Americans on low-income housing. I can't even give you an accurate figure on homelessness in the US. The hidden homeless population is growing. These are Americans that have jobs, but they live in their cars because they can't afford housing. 70 million Americans are on Social Security benefits, and they're saying that Social Security is going insolvent in 2032. So the rich people need to stop looting the American people. So I said my piece. I told you the truth. Please subscribe. I thank you for the support, and I wish you a very nice day.